For some local students, San Jose State has always been a fallback plan for college. But due to budget problems, they may have to go elsewhere.
Knowing that, okay, what if the other schools don't work out? What am I going to do now?
How these new changes are going to affect local and transfer students here in the Bay Area. That issue coming right up on Equal Time.
From San Jose State University, you're watching Equal Time, exploring new issues each week, giving equal time to competing points of view.
Hello from the campus of San Jose State University, and welcome to this edition of Equal Time. I'm your host, Journalism School Director Bob Rucker. San Jose State University is the oldest in the CSU system and has a long-standing policy of guaranteeing admission to local residents. But that has now changed. Jessica Savage begins our coverage by showing why the university made this difficult decision.
San Jose State University for years has been a guarantee for local students, like Lincoln High School senior Eric Sullivan, who applied to 6 of the California state universities this year, including SJSU. So Sullivan wasn't at all concerned about being accepted to San Jose State. But when news about SJSU changing its admittance requirements reached Eric and his family, they began to worry.
The fact that my backup plan might not be there was kind of shocking, and I was kind of nervous knowing that, okay, what if the other schools don't work out? What am I going to do now?
It made me think, what is that? They said they were withholding certain amounts of acceptance letters because they hadn't decided if they were going to change the requirement for those local students to get in or not, and he hadn't received his yet.
The Sullivans are not alone. Eric is one of the 45,000 prospective students who applied to SJSU for the fall 2012 semester. Making this the second year in a row, the university has had a record high number of applicants. This is a good and bad problem to have, according to William Nance, the interim vice president of student affairs at San Jose State.
That's a good thing in that we're a destination campus, that people see the value, they see the quality of the education that we provide. The downside is that means not everybody can come.
The university is changing its long-standing policy from the local area guarantee to a local area preference, making requirements stricter starting in the 2013 to 2014 year.
San Jose State can no longer admit all of the CSU eligible local students. This is a sad situation that is caused by the failure of our elected officials in Sacramento to adequately fund the CSU in general and San Jose State in particular.
This is the best option right now, according to SJSU Public Information Officer Pat Lopes-Harris, in order to combat the continuing budget crisis that is plaguing all of the CSU campuses.
So when state support drops in the area of, say, $700 million, there are few things we can do to make up for that and to ensure that our existing students have classes. We can do massive layoffs. We can seek out efficiencies wherever we might find them, but really the most effective thing is to control growth.
In addition to these changes, students will be admitted according to the capacity and requirements of their intended major.
So for every major, you need to have grades and test scores above the CSU minimum. It varies by major, but you have to be above the CSU minimum. The only major which was at the CSU minimum level was undeclared.
But after evaluation, many of these students who just meet the CSU minimum requirements end up struggling and dropping out of college.
Also very realistically need to look at the performance of the students who are being admitted at the CSU minimum, and what we're finding is it's really hard for them in a year or two to improve to the point where they can get into a major, stay here long enough to finish their classes, and actually graduate. The idea is really to raise the minimum threshold just a little bit so that the students we do admit have a better chance of succeeding.
I think it's good because, you don't want just everybody coming in that just because they have a 2.0. It's not going to look good on the school because a lot of people drop out.
Jones is on one side of the debate in whether these changes in admission policies are fair.
One argument is the university should be admitting any and all who are eligible from the local service area without regard to their background, grades, test scores, etc. There's another argument, and if you read the newspaper comments as well, that say admission should be merit-based, rather than geography-based.
Sullivan's mother, Michelle, says she doesn't agree with the changes because of how it might affect students like her younger son who have learning disabilities.
Maybe in high school, you know, the best grade he may be able to get is a C because he's not going to be able to pass, you know, the math test. Even if he scored high in other classes, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to affect him. I do worry about that.
While her husband, who is an SJSU alum, agrees with the new standards.
I would want them to kind of be, the standards to be the same at most CSUs versus regardless if you're coming from San Jose or if you're coming from Kansas.
To clarify and address these concerns, San Jose State University has been holding public hearings around the Bay Area.
When we come back, we'll give the other side some equal time.
See if there's any way that policy can be put on hold until these decisions are made.
We'll look at the reactions to the new policy and alternatives for students when Equal Time returns. Welcome back. We've seen why San Jose State has decided to abandon its guarantee policy of admission for local residents, despite the increasing number of applicants. But how do prospective freshmen and transfer students, as well as their families, feel about this new change in policy? And what alternative solutions are there? Equal Time's Jessica Savage continues our report.
The university, they don't meet their main...
At the first hearing held at the Martin Luther King Library, Nance gave a presentation about the new requirements and then opened up the floor for questions during a Q&A with a panel of SJSU faculty and staff. But many who attended the event said they left feeling more confused than they had before.
I don't feel like I could go back to campus and give students definite numbers or different criteria for admissions, so that kind of makes me nervous after attending this meeting, is that there's a lot of unknown that they're still trying to work out.
Lincoln High School counselor Olga Morales-Anay says she is worried about the students who will be applying in the fall, especially those who've had little support.
It's going to impact them because these are the students who maybe didn't have the information freshman, sophomore year or earlier, and have made a turnaround their junior year and are now CSU eligible, but won't be, and they've been told as long as they maintain a 2.0, they'll be admitted. All of a sudden, that's being pulled from them.
Also in the audience, West Valley Community College student Ryan McLaughlin. He's planning to transfer later this year and found the hearing helpful.
It's just nice to know what's happening at the school that I may be going to.
His mother, Renee, who accompanied him, says it's still hard to understand the new admission standards, but the reality of her son not getting in is scarier.
Yeah, it is scary because it's important to get a degree, and they're getting more expensive. It's getting harder to get in, and the future's uncertain.
However, she does understand why the university is changing its requirements.
Unfortunately, I think there's not a whole lot they can do. There's just so many people going back to school now because there's no jobs, and so competition is high.
It's this kind of acceptance that Nance hopes the community will see.
We would hope that the community is aware of the difficulties that exist when you simply cannot teach the number of students that want to come to a university like this when the number of applications continues to just skyrocket.
Nance says the main focus is still on current university students and getting them through graduation.
The more that the students can graduate, the more then we have the opportunity to let students in the door as new fresh or new transfers coming in.
But for those who do not gain admissions into the university, there are other options available.
Students who can't even who aren't able to meet the San Jose State threshold will still have the option of applying for a special program called Spartan Pathways, and will take We're thinking about the 100 students most likely to stay with us and graduate, and admit them and work with those students, hoping that we can get them to graduate. So there will be a preference, and then there will be a special pathways program for more students as well.
Those not accepted into this special program have another alternative.
And so we work with the other institutions in the area to try to get in, to try to get our students in there. And we've particularly worked with East Bay to make that a very seamless application process for them to be able to go to school there.
Nance's big advice for prospective students is to work hard and start preparing early.
So my advice for students that are thinking about coming in the future is start early on your preparation. Your grades do matter. Your test scores do matter.
While academics do matter, it's not the only thing that counts when applying to college.
Test scores, if you're a frosh, do matter. But it's not the only criterion that we would be looking at for admission.
And with Eric being a student athlete, he has already gotten 3 acceptance letters. San Jose State is among the 3.
So these are my application receipts showing where I applied, well, the CSUs that I applied to.
He has all 6 of his college applications proudly displayed in his room, and as the acceptance letters keep coming, he feels a sense of accomplishment.
It feels good knowing that I'm one of select few.
Let's go, Eric!
As for Mom and Dad, they couldn't be happier.
Excited that he got in, but again, I want him to go away to school, and I want him to experience school in a different city.
I was excited, I was proud. He's been working really hard.
Mom and Dad's advice to other parents after going through the college application process?
Yeah, I don't know if I have any real advice other than to kind of start early.
While Sully, as everyone calls him on the baseball field, is enjoying his last few months of high school, he cannot wait for college and hopes to continue to be involved with sports, whether it's on or off the field.
I want to find a way to keep myself related to sports. And I thought being on the sideline treating hurt people would be fun.
Even though he was admitted to SJSU, he hasn't made any final commitments.
Right now, it looks like I'm going to Chico. Things could change. I still haven't admitted myself completely.
And as for his future, he says the most terrifying thing is the unknown.
Scariest thing, what you don't know what's going to happen.
Eric is looking forward to living on his own for the first time. Recently, an out-of-state college is interested in having Eric come pitch for their baseball team. It looks as if his options keep growing.
When we come back, we'll sit down with a group of experts searching for solutions when Equal Time continues. Welcome back to this edition of Equal Time. Our focus today is on San Jose State's admissions policies and some of the questions and concerns that you've had. Let's meet our guests.
I'm Bill Nance. I'm the Interim Vice President for Student Affairs here at San Jose State.
I'm Dennis Yena, Associate Vice President for Undergraduate Studies here at San Jose State.
I'm Michelle Bejarano, Eric's mother.
I'm Eric Sullivan as an incoming freshman next year, and I'm an undeclared major.
I'm Jessica Savage. I'm the reporter and researcher of this story.
What was your reaction when you first heard the news that we were going to be restricting admissions?
I was concerned because I think about students who might not be able to afford college, or parents actually. So it's nice to be able to go to a local college and not have to pay for dorm fees, but more so just students who maybe have special education needs and are, English is their second language, and they're not going or attending schools that have a lot of resources for them. So that was my concern.
Certainly major concerns to be considered. And of course, Eric, you're the person we're focused on. We want you to come here, and we want you to feel welcome to come here. What was your perspective when you heard what was going on?
When I heard about it, I was kind of nervous because I hadn't heard back from any. I hadn't received my letter of admissions. So this has always been like, okay, I'm going to get in. It's for sure I'm going to get into San Jose State. But I hadn't received my letter. I was starting to get a little nervous. But overall, I felt like it was a good. If it helped, it made me feel better about myself getting in, saying, okay, not just because you're a local, you're going to get in automatically. Now the standards are upped, and you have accomplished something to come to San Jose State, and it made me feel proud of myself.
Now let's be clear and let's put the message out right now for everybody. It's still a priority to have local students come to San Jose State, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Jessica, you researched this story. What are some of the concerns that you heard about?
So I've heard some concerns as far as, again, they're really worried from the two argument side. The one argument side of people who think it's unfair or who don't agree with the new standards, again, they're worried about the people who don't have, like Michelle was saying, the resources, people who don't speak English, the students who are first generation college students. And I spoke to a Lincoln High School counselor, and she was really concerned because she's concerned about the juniors because it's going to be affecting them. And what if those students, like she was saying, ones who don't have resources, get the information late, and maybe they're like hustling to get their GPA up and meet the CSU minimum, which is a 2.0, and a 13 to 1400 SAT score, and now they're not going to be able to get in because unfortunately they're kind of in the middle. They're stuck in that in-between phase. So those are the major concerns that I've heard from both sides.
Transfer students also are another concern because we're an impacted school. We have impacted programs all across campus. But Bill, for those who are coming in as transfer students, some parents have been calling me and saying, why do you have impaction anymore? Why do you need it?
Yeah, impaction is all based around the university's capacity, which is basically the number of students that we have, combination of resources, and so I don't want it to just be the finances, but it's the number of faculty, the level of faculty, tenured faculty and part-time, lab activities, lab classes. So it's a capacity consideration. How many students can we adequately educate? And the priority is really to make sure that there's true access, not just admit everybody in and not let them get classes, but make sure that everybody that comes here actually has the opportunity to be successful, get the classes that they need and get through. And so when you talk about a capacity discussion, you really get very quickly into how many people do we have both FRAJ and transfer. And as Dennis had said before, at some point when you have the demand that we have trying to come to San Jose State, it just becomes very challenging to be able to make sure that everybody that's here really gets the true education that they deserve when they get into college.
You've just had a series of forums here in the spring semester to try to let people know we do care, we do listen. What was your experience with those forums?
The forums have been incredibly informative, insightful, and are helping us shape the final decisions that we need to make going forward in the evening. And so each of the forums was a very different group of people attending, and the comments, they've been well attended, 100 or more in each one of the sessions of people having the opportunity to speak, and it's been just an incredibly engaging and informative set of discussions.
Did you get a sense that there was some anger or pushback? Because I think you were telling me before the show that some community college counselors were concerned about San Jose State?
Yeah, I had spoken to some of the counselors. They just didn't want to speak because they felt like they were unsure about the requirements, and they just didn't want to speak to me because they said, well, we haven't done the research, we don't know, and I have to look over everything first before I can talk to you. So it was a mixed review, but again, like I spoke to a community college student and a parent, and I saw both sides. I saw that counselor who said, well, I don't understand, I'm more confused, but I don't think it's fair. But then I had the other side of the community college parent saying, yeah, I mean, it's like the decision they have to make. So I understand where they're coming from, because what can you do when you're stuck with facing the reality of budget crisis and more people want to go to school because there is no work. And then the community college student also liked the forums because, like he was telling me, he said it was a way for him to know what's going on in the future school that he would like to come to, because he wants to apply later in the year, and so he appreciated the forum. So I got to see both sides at the meetings.
And some people were angry, some people were not pleased.
Some people were angry, some people were not pleased, and others were understanding.
Very good. Fairness. Dennis, that's a hard thing.
Yeah.
Because we all define it differently. How do you see that concept?
In the higher education community, there's always been a preference for academic preparation and quality. in that sense, even our scholarship systems are often based upon merit, so students who earn the highest. But there's also been a countervailing concern for people that have been challenged all the way through the process, who may or may not have the same level of merit or preparation or academic qualification, but have every bit of a right to attend college and avail themselves of those opportunities. So it's always trying to balance those two competing. There's no one voice from the community. If we say we're going to lean too far this way, we hear from the other side every time we do that. So the email stream, if you read the comment stream, that even on the website, you see some people say, yeah, keep going, that's a good way to go. And other people say, look what you're doing, you're wrecking our community in terms of their future aspirations. So it's a tough one.
And on campus, I'm sure faculty have been talking about this across campus. I know the deans of the colleges have been talking about it here. As a director of a school, I know I have concerns that we don't want people locally to feel unwelcome. And yet there's the other side of it that says our professions are so demanding, Mom and Dad. Your son, Eric, if he goes into those 3 fields I mentioned, has to meet certain standards and has to compete early in life because he's going to do that for the rest of his life. Does that cause any pause for you as a parent to know that that's what he's going to face?
I think so. I think it does worry me. I know, again, as Jessica said, with people, just the economy, people who are not working or going back to school, and it makes it harder. And, I'm not sure if, or hoping that Eric is prepared and ready and gets to go to school and major in what he wants to do, and he's ready for it.
Well, the fact that he's sitting here talking with us suggests I think he'll be more than ready for this. I just hope he understands, and Eric, I do hope you understand, these administrators and all of us here at the university are rooting for you, but we also have to be pragmatic. We have to be realistic. This is a facility, this is a campus, this is an opportunity. And I was always taught when I went to high school that college is an experience and a privilege. It's not something just to think, well, I'm entitled to it. Do you think students understand that?
I'm not sure. A lot of people, like you hear people that you see them and you think, oh, they're not ready, but they always talk about coming to college. And like for me, I've always worked hard to come to college. So like for me, I feel that I should, like, I've accomplished a lot to be here, and I feel like I should reward myself I should be rewarding myself by attending the 4-year.
And when you hear that, Bill, you hear the reward is there because he's worked hard. And a lot of students out there have worked hard to get to San Jose State or to other CSUs. When we have to look at these practical decisions, though, how much of that reward is lost?
I would like to say very little. The kinds of comments that he was just making about what he's been looking at and working towards for all this time is exactly what we like to hear and what we like to see. And that those are very much the kinds of students that we think are going to be very successful when they get here. And so what we're really trying to do is to make sure that the students that have that drive, that have really worked and prepared early, from junior high through high school, and have set that as a goal all the way through, they will have done everything they needed to do. They'll have no concerns and no worries in all likelihood of coming in. So that's exactly the kind of comment and student and applicant that we love to see and love to hear, because he's been paying attention to what he needs to do and what he wants to do for many years all the way through.
And Jessica, I wanted to ask you, from your perspective as a student and as a journalist, do you think that the media is not really doing a service by giving all of the information as clearly as possible?
I mean, yes and no. Obviously, our job is to put accurate, correct information and concise information and make it easy for the readers to follow. But again, I feel like this issue is so much more, I want to say, so much more than just the simple black and white. There is a lot of gray area with this issue, and there really is no clear-cut solution. Again, I'm a current student, and so I feel like when Kaomi, the president here, admitted the 4,000 freshmen, I was thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen to me getting my classes? What's going to happen to the resources for me? Because again, that's more students we're adding to our campus, and it's taking away resources that I could be using as a current student. And so it just concerns me. And so, like I said, it's this big gray area, but what do you do? And so I feel like yes and no to that question.
Dennis, you got a thought for that?
Well, Yeah, I think that from the public perception, and as Eric has expressed, I gear myself toward getting in, getting accepted, being admitted. And that's step one of the process. But from our point of view, trying to manage a complex institution, it's not just getting in, it's moving through. And as you just pointed out, if you take a very large freshman class, then the next year you have a very large sophomore class, and you've got the bubble moving through the python.
It keeps growing.
It keeps growing. So because we've taken so many students because of our local area guarantees, we've always said, we want you, please come. And when they all came at once last year, what that means now for next year's students, the ones coming in fall 12, only about 15% of what we can offer on campus will go to new students. 85% of what we're going to offer in terms of credit units and classes are all going to be moving that bubble from last year and the last couple of years through to the end of the pipeline. So, and the public you wouldn't naturally think of that at home. Like getting in the door was the goal, and a good one. Mm-hmm. But then here's Jessica saying, yeah, but because you let 4,000 in, it's going to be tough for me to graduate now because you've got to offer classes to the 4,000. Mm-hmm. And there's only so many teachers and so many classrooms, and that's what we're up against. And that's, again, a hard message to sell because from the community point of view, it's a door, you get through the door, and you start. Mm-hmm. And then it's kind of like...
Well, and I talked to a university student, and he felt too, I mean, he had the same concerns as me, but he also felt pride. I mean, there's more pride in going to San Jose State because, again, we are becoming a university where it is becoming selective. And like I was saying, I'm really proud now that I got in versus saying, oh, well, I knew I'd get in, you know? And so it's nice to hear that because then you have pride as a San Jose State student, as a current student. So that student really told me, he said, I like the higher GPA requirements because it makes me really proud of myself that I'm in this university that a lot of people want to come to. Mm-hmm. And that, you know, people are having trouble getting in now.
And I think one of the things I am concerned about, Bill, is retention. You know, making sure once they get in, they successfully get through the process, earn that degree, and get out there and have an opportunity. And retention, and certainly in certain cultural communities, has been lower than we want. How are we going to try to address those?
And it's most critical after the first year. The first year retention rate from the transition from the frosh to the sophomores is where you typically see the biggest fall off. And then there's a little bit that goes from there. And the more that we can make available the classes that they need, the advising that they need. Eric's coming in as an undeclared major. That's great in many ways because it says he wants the opportunity to figure out what he wants to explore and learn going forward. But we need to be able to have the mechanisms available to get him to talk with faculty such as yourself, to meet with advisors, to meet with counselors and other students and peer mentors so that he can really have the chance to find the course that he wants to go, especially in his frosh year, because that's where the most important decisions that some of those students will need to make.
And we hope we've convinced you that we're a faculty and a campus that will be inviting and help you all along. And I want to thank you and all of you for being here today, and thank you for joining us for this edition of Equal Time.